Greetings, 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 everyone, and welcome to another edition of Create Yourself Imagery, Intimacy, Innovation, a place where people from all walks of life and various backgrounds come to share their transformative personal and professional stories of restoration, confidence, clarity, and empowerment. They're here to share their helpful tools, resources, and affirming guidance. I'm Joyce Kyles, your global speaker, author, trainer, and coach. And if you're ready to transition, transform, and thrive, this is indeed the podcast for you. Today's episode, you all, I am super excited to present to some, introduce to others, one of my longtime dear friends, colleagues in the work, just an all around beautiful, spirited person inside and out. And I'm just going to read you a snippet of her bio. And even what she sent me does not even begin to scratch the surface, you all. So you are in for a treat. But let me just tell you a little bit about my friend, Delmar Johnson. Delmar Johnson is a dynamic speaker, author, and people operations advisor who equips leaders in growing businesses to thrive. As the founder of HR Brain for Hire and Delmar Unlimited, she helps organizations strengthen leadership, refine processes, and cultivate people-first cultures while minimizing risk. With 25 plus years of experience across corporate giants, startups, and scaling enterprises, Delmar is a trusted strategist known for blending practical HR expertise with humanity-centered insights. And she has been featured in Black Enterprise, Success Magazine, and Voyage ATL. She has shared the stage with Matthew Knowles, Marcus Lemonis, Marshawn Evans Daniels, and Dr. Sandy Trim, leaving audiences inspired to lead boldly, build stronger teams, and unlock their full potential. So, without further ado, let me present to all of you this morning none other than the Delmar Johnson, Godmother of HR. How you doing today, Delmar?
Hi, good morning, good morning, good morning. It was a great introduction. I am well, so happy to be here and have this great conversation with you and see how we can bring value to those who are listening in.
All right, sounds like a plan to me. So let's just jump right on into it. I did read a bit of your bio, and again, I just scratched the surface. Um, I have a couple of different things that I want to talk with you about today. We're going to dive into Get Off the Pew in just a moment. But before we do that, what other things that are not listed in your bio that you would want our listeners to know as we transition to talk about your new book?
Well, just some practical things. I'm from the hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, and the youngest of five girls. If I want to tell you from a personal standpoint, because you kind of told the business standpoint side of things for the most
Yes.
part. And about 3 years ago, I will tell your audience this. About 3 years ago, the Lord led me to move to Atlanta, Georgia area. So since 2022, I've been here in Georgia, claiming my stake here in the ground in this new territory. So happy to be here, happy to see what the Lord is going to do here. And like I said, we're only 3 years in, and I'm sure I'm going to be here a lot longer. A lot longer. I have no intentions to move again. This is like my fourth city I've lived in, so I have no intentions to move again. So I think this is where I'm planting my tree right here in that kind of area. So I'm happy to be here and still finding my way. Still finding my way.
Okay. Well, that is actually a good segue into my next question then, because this podcast is Create Yourself,
Mhm.
Imagery, Intimacy, Innovation. So you actually began sharing a bit of that journey. So if you would, with our listening audience, I read the bio, so I told a bit about your background with business, and you just shared a snippet about you personally, but tell our audience about your journey and what led you to becoming what several of us have affectionately referred to you as the godmother of HR. Tell our audience how all of that came about for you.
Most definitely, great question. I like the name of your podcast too. Create yourself. So let me give you the short version of it. Let me give you the short version of it. So I would tell you, it all started back in 2010. Started back in 2010, so a little bit over 14 years ago, where I found myself in a position where I had to rebuild my life from scratch. At that point, I had lost everything. all material things, money, all those kinds of things. So I basically lost everything, and I had to figure out a way to rebuild from scratch. I had to move back to Memphis. At that time, I had was in North Carolina. That was the last city I was in. Last state I was in. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. And 2010 came around, and I literally lost everything. Got evicted for the first time ever. No, all bank accounts closed. All 401k plans, IRAs out the window. So lost everything, and I had to figure out how to start from scratch. And then in moving back to Memphis at that time, because I've been gone for like 12 years, moving back to Memphis at that time also stepped into a new role of caregiving. So while my life had fallen apart, I was positioned to where I carried caregiving for my mother along with my sisters for a journey at that time that lasted 10 years. So while I was trying to pick the pieces of my life up, I was also put in a position to try my best to help my mother sustain hers. So that was a very trying time at that time. But what that season taught me, though, Joyce, was the level of resilience at that time that I did not know was a part of who I am and a part of who I was at the time. And so it was important for me to bring some structure back to my life. And then also, what can I do to help rebuild my life? Because I was all over the place. I would tell you, my mind was scattered after losing everything and then stepping into a caregiving role where you're trying to rebuild your life. I'm telling you, it's only by the grace of God that I made it through that. And I do mean that literally, by the grace of God. So I had to figure out what was in my hands. Mm-hmm. What was in my hands that I could utilize to begin rebuilding slowly but surely, right? Day by day. Where will money come from? Where will, what I already know can be put out there where people will find value in it. So I really had to pray. It's like, God, what is in my hands? What do I know enough of that I can help myself while also helping others? And this is how HR Brain for Hire was born, which is the brand most people know me by. So that's how that was born. And so I knew I had enough skills there because at that time I had already been in corporate America in human resources, which is my longtime career, about 15 years at that time. Had already been in HR about 15 years. So I was coming out of corporate, had been downsized. So I went through downsizing, terminations, all kind of stuff through those 15 years of my corporate career. But I knew enough. I knew enough to just like, okay, that's what's in my hand. That's what's in my mind, my skill set, my educational background. How do I put that out into the world where someone would actually want to pay for it? Mm-hmm. So I started, and I got my first client in February of 2010. Excuse me, 2011, February of 2011. Wasn't making a lot of money, but when they say you make that first dollar, you either frame the dollar if you dollar, or you make how that goes. And so when you get that first dollar, it's like, okay, you're officially in business or feel like you're in business. So that was the beginning and the birthing of the brand HR Brain for Hire and where it came from. And so that's the short version of what has happened and what has brought me to the point of actually operating on that brand. And of course, you mentioned another brand that I have, Delmar Unlimited. We'll talk about that. But Delmar Unlimited is reflective of the fact I want to tap into the multidimensional side of myself. So Delmar Unlimited will become the umbrella, if you will, and everything will flow from that. So, but yeah, HR Brain for Hire is what people know me for. So I'm 14 years in now.
Which is wonderful. It is wonderful that you shared the story and your journey in the way that you did, because what I am hearing, and I'm sure what others are gathering from our conversation, is that you went from a place of losing it all. And how many of us have gone through situations where we have lost it all or lost most of it or lost a piece of ourselves somewhere in this journey called life, and what does it look like to pick yourself up and be able to move forward? And so what I'm hearing you share is how you used what you have in your hands. Yes. Use what you were able to grab from your years in corporate and being able to formulate what we now know from you as HR brain for hire, which is a beautiful thing. So you were able to just use your skill sets. And I think that's an important thing for us to lift up in this space, that sometimes we don't have to go and get more certification or more dialogue. It is great to have those depending on what it is that you're working on and working towards. But
Mm-hmm.
to get started, sometimes all you need is what's already in front of you. And so
Exactly. And to start from zero. Zero.
yes,
And I'll tell you a little secret or a little conversation my mother and I had at that time. My mother's gone home to be with the Lord now, but let me tell you, when I got home, when I drove 13 hours from Raleigh, North Carolina to Memphis, Tennessee, drove up into my mother's park, up into my driveway of my mother's home, the home I grew up in, and I plopped myself down on the couch. I'm on one end, my mother on the other. And I distinctly remember her asking this question, babe, because I'm the youngest, right? I'm the youngest of five.
right.
Babe, baby, what are you going to do now? And I distinctly remember telling my mother, I have no idea, but I'll figure it out. I
Mm,
have no idea, but I figured, and I didn't. I had no idea. I came home with the clothes on my back, literally, the clothes on my back. That's it. And I
mm,
said, but I
mm,
always
mm,
say the only thing, I lost everything, but the thing that I didn't lose that is even more important than any of the things I ever lost, that I didn't lose my mind.
mm.
I didn't lose my
That's
mind,
good.
even though I felt like I was in the midst of that.
Sure,
I
sure.
felt like I was in the midst of that, but I had to just settle in. It's like, no, I still have the faculties of my mind. I will figure this out. I'm thinking, we're not supposed to do things in our own strength, right? But at that time, you're just trying to figure it out. And then you get into
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, Lord,
That's right.
which direction do I go now? So it was a very trying time, to put
Right.
it nicely. It was a very
Okay.
but I just think remember that one question she asked me. It's like, what are you gonna do now, baby? I said, I don't know, mama. I'll figure it out.
And and you absolutely have. So with that, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about what were some of those first steps that you took as you were figuring out, because I know we have listeners who are stuck and
Mhm.
frustrated and looking for support. And, how do I just start? So for you, what did that look like for you, especially in those beginning stages?
Oh, oh, that's such a good question. Let me take my mind back. You know what? Can I be real on your podcast?
Absolutely. That's the only way we want you to be.
I started out stumbling because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm gonna keep it real, real honest. 100, they
Yes.
say. I didn't know how I was going to make it happen. I had no clue. I just knew it's like, okay, I do know enough of this to know that it could be valuable to somebody if, as I learn how to position it to be of value. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because of what I've done for so long, HR has always been looked at as the villain, if you will. So it was a lot of time where I had to educate, not only educate myself of how to take it from what I call corporate speak to entrepreneur speak,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I had to educate myself, but I also wind up having to educate entrepreneurs because they'll look at me like there was a deer in a headlight when I started talking about why they need to have these certain things in place if they're going to decide to grow their business beyond themselves, right? Not everybody's trying to build a big business, okay? So
Right.
let's
Right.
understand that. Not everybody's trying to build a big business. So you could be, I've been an independent consultant for a long time and I've worked with, different contractors myself. But a lot of businesses start off with one person, right? And then they'll build from there slowly but surely. But even with one person, I wanted to let them know why it was so important, even if you only had one person on your team, if you only had one
Hmm.
employee. So you really have to start from the place of, first of all, identifying what it is that you have that could bring value to yourself as well as people that you want to serve or bring value to. Secondly, you need to do a brain dump and don't judge the brain dump. Okay. Don't judge the brain
Mm,
dump because a lot of times
right.
people hadn't identified what their strengths are, what their areas of opportunity or weaknesses are, or, what are those things that could really really be turned into a business idea. So you have to do a brain dump of all the skills that you've acquired through all the positions that you've had in your life. And not just professional positions like in your career or in your business, but in your personal life. You've been a mother, father, sister, brother, auntie, uncle. You've been a project manager, a marketer, a social media manager. You've been a compensation analyst. You've been a recruiter, or whatever it is. So I want you to look at all of the things that you can extract from and can draw from. And that becomes part of your brain dump. And then you have to do some research. Okay, what else? What is out there? Especially now, it's more technology. But 14 years ago, we didn't have all the, the talk about AI and things of that nature. So if you just starting out, those are the two things that I would have you do. And then the third part of that is now take all of that you've brain dumped, all the things that you have acquired, all education, skill set, talent, gifts, and begin to research where could those things be applied to the most, to bring the most value. Where in the marketplace could those things be provided to? Where in the marketplace, as far as whether it's a small business that you're starting or whether you're trying to find your next career move, you have to identify what it is that you have inside of you that's going to bring value to where you want to go. So those are the three things that I think people would need to think about first.
I think those are wonderful things to consider. And then as they are continuing to move on in the journey, they may find that they need to do some tweaking and refining and get those, additional certifications or connect with those resources and what have you. But you have definitely laid the proper foundation to get people started and keep them moving and keep them inspired and engaged, as they're doing that brain dump, just the ideas just begin to flow. I can certainly attest to that from having done similar for myself, which leads me right into the other part of the conversation that I really wanted us to get into today, because you have already been established as an author already, because I actually have your book. So I know that you have other books and I want you to speak to those. But what I'm really most excited about today is to talk about your latest book, which is Get Off the Pew. So you can tell us a little bit about what you've currently written, what you've previously written, because I want our audience to be aware of that. But then I really just want you to I'm just yielding the floor to you to talk to us about Get Off the Pew. Tell us about it, the inspiration behind it, how to order it. The floor is yours. I'm yielding it to you.
Most definitely. So I'll tell you about a couple of my past books, and then we'll move into
Yes.
Off the Pew. Where my first book, I actually wrote that in the midst of all that I was going through in the beginning that I told you about, where I lost everything. I actually wrote the book probably a few years after that, and it released officially in 2014. That was my first book. It was called Seasons of My Soul, which was a memoir of the journey that I had been through in prior years. So Seasons of My Soul was my first ever self-published book. And then years later, actually, when we was going into the pandemic, as a matter of fact, I released a business-focused book called HR is Sexy, The Truth About Human Resources and Why It's Necessary for Your Business. But now I'm actually working on two books. The other book I can't even talk about yet. But this book, Get Off the Pew, that you're referring to, was actually an interruption. It was actually a divine interruption, because I was in the middle of the other book I had just finished the initial manuscript on, and prayerfully that will come out next year. But Get Off the Pew was a divine interruption, and it was birthed out of a Bible study I was on in the month of June, interestingly enough. And my pastor, we was going through Bible study that night, and my pastor always says, I don't have any pews for you to sit in, for you to stay stuck on. So she always said that. And we were, at that particular night, we were talking about Gideon and what God wanted Gideon to do. And I told her, I said, you know what, that sounds like the pew effect. I literally said that. And when I said it, I kind of paused, and my pastor paused too. I saw it because we were doing Bible study on Zoom. And she said, oh, that sounds like a book. I said, it does, doesn't it? I said, let me see what God says. I said, this may be a divine interruption. So, and that's exactly what it was. I started immediately on it, as, it was getting downloads and everything. And I'm thinking it was just going to be about, church and, people in church not getting off the pews and everything, because it was part of my experience that I had, right? But then God gave me a different spin on it, right? It talks about the literal pew that we know about in church, right? But it really talks about the pews that we sit on, which is the posture that we take in our life, in our business, in our career. So it's not just, but the play on the words that God gave me, I loved it. I like, okay, I go along with that. So it's called Get Off the Pew, 40 Days to Break Your Silence, Build Confidence, and Lead in Life, Work, and Purpose. And it's releasing just in time for the holidays. So, hey, Black Friday weekend,
That's right.
it's going to be a great gift to give to those who have been sitting on the pews. Let me tell you what some of the pews are, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about what's happening. Some of the pews we sit on, not just the one that you sit on in your faith-based community that you may attend, but it's really about what posture are you taking in your life. It's like those pews of procrastination, the pews of self-doubt, the pew of imposter syndrome, the pew of ego, the pew of pride, the pew of the pew of doubt, the pew of fear. So it's not just about, so you see how I talk about the pew as a posture.
Absolutely wonderful. Right, right, right.
So it lends to all of us, no matter if you're rich or poor, no matter if you're a business owner or career person, no matter if you are retired, from the life that, was part of your vocation, but it lends to all of us as a human being. As a human being, no matter where you are in your life, there is a pew in your life. Someone who may be what, we'll say filthy rich, right? Someone who filthy rich has a pew in their life. All right.
Yes.
Because they say as you make more money and go to different levels, there's different devils, right? So you have a pew if you have multiple.
That's right. That's right.
If you have zero in the bank, you're trying to find out where your next meal is coming from, you have a pew. So that's why the pew is a posture. It's not a literal thing. It's
Right.
a literal thing, but the play on words, I give it all to glory to God because it had nothing to do with me. So
All right. Let them use you. Let them use you, as they say in the church.
so it's going to be for those individuals who, trying to maybe start over in transition like I was years ago, or in the transitions that we all have had in different seasons of our life, right? Or if you're in a pivot in your business, if you're trying to figure out what your next career move is going to be, this is encouragement for you to know that whatever it is that you're trying to do is already inside of you to do it. Then you have to connect with the source to figure out what the strategy is, for you to make that next move, or for you to make that transition or pivot. So it's going to be for the individual. It's going to be for the ministry leaders who need to teach a group. It's going to be for the mastermind groups that are out there that just want to pour into their mastermind members. It's going to be for those, again, those in career that's trying to climb the ladder but don't know that they're already equipped to climb the ladder, whether you get validation from your boss or not. So I want people to know that Get Off the Pew is a posture. It's not just what you were sitting on in church. So I'm excited about that because this was a revelation for me. The revelation had to come to me first. It was part of my experience of when I was caregiving, sitting at church. I have a Forever Church in Memphis, but I have a different pastor now since I've moved and everything. But my Forever Church, I was just sit in the literal pews, okay, in church, and just really reflect and look at how many gifts go to the graveyard, how many talents are in the graveyard, how much innovation is in the graveyard versus being exercised where we were. So I'm excited about, like, again, it's going to come out during right in time for the holidays for Black Friday, and moving from there. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity of whatever door God is going to open for me to go speak to women's groups, for me to go speak to organizations and corporations and ERGs and things of that nature. Because we're all human, right? We all are human we all are spiritual beings having a human experience. No matter where you are in your life, there's a pew that you've been sitting on that we need to get up from. that we all need to get up from that posture. And it had to start with me because God has been working on me. It's like, you're going to have to get up off that pew, whatever it is, right? So it always has to start with ourselves, right? When we're writing a book. But I'm looking forward to who is going to bless, what organization is going to bless, what group is going to bless, what individual is going to bless. So I'm excited about it. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to really kind of talk about it so people understand it's not about what you've been sitting on at church. It's about the posture that you've been in your life, in your career, in your business. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. So that's one of the things that are going on. And then from the business side of things, HR, I still do HR, still do people strategies, but I'm more of an HR advisor. So I come in and help you with your team that you may be trying to groom to take over HR for you internally. I do have clients that I still work with directly, but I like the advisor consultant side of things to just, hey, let me just pour my brain and knowledge out to you, and then you take it and run with it. You implement it, you execute it, and everything. And then from this AI side, I have digital products to offer people. I have custom GPTs to offer entrepreneurs so they can write their SOPs and their job descriptions and how to hire. It's just so many things that I have going on that side, because my goal is to digitize HR brain for hire. That's
okay.
my goal is to digitize my HR brain.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
So, and when we get to the point where I can share where people can find me and how to find that information, I'll be able to share that. But with Get Off the Pew, let me go back to that. If you want to get on the waiting list for when it comes out, because sales start in October. I think mid-October, we're going to be starting pre-sales around October 15th. So, and it'd be, again, just in time, about 6 weeks or 7 weeks out from Black Friday.
Absolutely, from Black Friday, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Perfect timing. So pre-sales start next month, mid-October, and you can go to tinyurl.com/get off the pew. That's tinyurl.com/get off the pew. You can get on the waiting list now, and you'll be the first to know when the pre-sales begin. You'll get an autographed copy when the final book comes out for the holidays. Right before the holidays, you get your books before then. So I'm excited about it. Pushing this. This is another self-published book, but yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about, like I said, digitizing HR brain so people can get access to what they need without blowing their budget or needing, to hire me right on the spot, because a lot of small businesses are not in that position yet. But digitizing my brain has been fun. So they'll be able to find those kind of things too. Like I said, when we get to that point of being able to contact me and how they can get access to all of this.
Okay, and I think this is probably a great segue into the how to get in touch with you, how to contact you. And as our listeners know, and if it's your first time, but certainly those who've been listening and following, you notice that each time we share who we have on the show, we share their bio and all of their contact information right below their photo in the flyer. So that information is readily accessible for you to be able to articulate. So pick up and use. So you, by all means, please, Delmar, verbalize how people can get in touch with you, but it's always with the understanding of knowing that if they happen to miss it and we were talking and so engaged, it's going to be right there under your picture, so no one has any excuse to not get off of their physical pew, their emotional pew, whatever pew they're on, and go ahead and grab this book, get on this list, get on this wait list, put yourself in position to get an autograph copy, and then also be mindful of the services that Delmar offers as an HR advisor, because she brings, we've been calling her the godfather of HR for a reason, or godmother of HR for a reason. She's been the godmother for a reason. So that means she has a wealth of knowledge that she is able to share, and you're going to get quality information. So with that being said, Delmar, please let our listeners know, how can they get in touch with you, and how can they order, not just Get Off the Pew, but maybe they want to backtrack and order one of the other books that you have as well. So how do we do it?
Most definitely. Easiest way, they can find me. I got a couple of websites. They can find me at my HR website, hrbrainforhire.com. They can also go to my delmarunlimited.com website. Everything's connected, but sometimes you give people options. And then you can also find me on social media under Delmar Unlimited on Instagram. And you can go in my bio and go to my link tree, and all of that is linked with how to get on the book list or the wait list for the book, how to access my digital store. So all of that is in my bio on my IG account at Delmar Unlimited. I'm also Delmar Unlimited on TikTok as well. And in my profile there, you can go to my link tree. They're all linked together, so you can easily find me, easily find my digital products for entrepreneurs. I got a lot of them, y'all. Custom GPTs, ebooks, templates, all the things that entrepreneurs need to have to get started and to advance. Again, they can go to the link in the bio on my IG account, Delmar Unlimited on TikTok. Go to the profile there as well. My link tree is there. And then also on LinkedIn is my name, obviously, Delmar Johnson. On LinkedIn is Delmar Johnson. So I'm very easy to find. I'm not hard to find. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what God is going to do with that book, but I believe it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people who just need that encouragement. Like I said, that it's God's responsibility of the how. I've just been the vessel to plant the seed. So
yes.
So go get in. So I'm excited. So I look forward to getting my author's copy so I can share that so y'all can see what it's going to physically look like, right? To get everybody excited. So I've enjoyed this, and I hope your audience finds value in what we've communicated today.
I am certain that they have found value, and I am looking forward to even us, I'm putting it out there right now. We have not talked about this, but I'm saying it to you now. I'm looking forward to a part two of our conversation, because I just feel like there's some other things that we could have, should have, need to address. Certainly around the holidays, if you are open and willing to come back, would love to have you come back, and we can talk even more about what you are doing in that season, and just bring things together, because there was so many great gems that you talked about. So yeah, if you agree, we'd love to have you come back.
Most definitely. I want to be talking to everybody by then, and before then, I just get off the pew. And they can find me on Facebook too, under my name, Delmar Johnson. So I'm very easy to find.
Okay, so I want to encourage folks to really, make sure that they go to the websites and go to IG, especially places, TikTok, places where the link tree is, so that you actually have access to all of the links in one centralized place. But as I mentioned, again, you all know I will share those links out so that you have them readily accessible, and share them out. I always ask people, please make sure that they're sharing with their circles of responsibility. And as we are wrapping up our time together, my last question to you is if you have any additional, because you've given us quite a few gems already, tools, resources, things to think about and consider. But I want to ask, as we wrap up, if there are any other gems, pieces of advice, words of encouragement, tools, resources, anything at all that you would like for our listeners to know as we close this out.
Just a word of encouragement. It's like we're living in a time and a space now that seems chaotic. And there's always something that's happening every day that's affecting people on all levels of humanity. And I say stay steadfast, stay prayerful. If you don't have a prayer life, build one. Even, especially for those, your audience who are believers. But also I encourage those who may not call themselves that to find a grounding place that does not get you caught up in the chaos that we see every day online, on TV. I don't even own a TV, but on TV, in media and things of that nature. So I just encourage you to just stay steadfast, focus on what you can focus on, handle what you can handle, And sometimes you have to put blinders on when there's so much chaos around you, so you can stay focused on who you are, what you're supposed to be doing for yourself, for your family, for your children, for your community, and be, find a place of service, find a place that you can serve others, even if it's just one other person that you can encourage or help in the midst of navigating this life chaos and storms that are swarming all around us. But I don't want you to get consumed by them. Turn off your TV, turn off your telephone sometimes, stop scrolling. I'm talking to myself too. Stop getting consumed by that, and really get focused on something that can settle your mind, settle your spirit. Focus on a project that you've always wanted to do. This is a great time to focus on a project that you put on the back burner right now. It's a great time to take out whatever that project is. It doesn't have to be big and elaborate. It can be something that's significant to you, to keep you grounded, to keep you from getting consumed by what's swirling around us. So I just want to leave that for your audience as a point of encouragement.
I think that is a wonderful way for us to end our time together today. Great interview, Delmar. I'm so appreciative to you for making time and space for me and us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And to our guest, again, thank you for giving us your time and your attention. And to our listening audience, thank you for showing up today, because without you, I could not do what it is that I do. So until next time, again, I thank you. And let us go forward and continue to create the life that we desire and deserve. And remember that you can do so at any age. Until next time, let's continue to transition, transform, and thrive.